Hello and welcome to the Story Behind the Stories, your weekly look at the pages of the Neepawa Banner Press. Thank you very much for taking a little bit of your time and spending it here with us on NAC TV. I'm Eoin Devereux, journalist with the Banner Press, welcoming you as always to the show, joined this week by owner and operator Ken Waddell. Ken, good to have you here in the chair this week.
Good to be here. Been away for a while.
Well, we've got plenty to talk about, boy do we ever, and a lot of interesting things for Neepawa, very specifically Neepawa in this week's edition. One of the most pertinent ones, of course, as always, you can find on the front page of the paper, and it's a story that we've been talking about and covering for so long, and we're finally glad to be able to sort of finalize this one, put it to bed as it were, and talk about Neepawa's new training center, a partnership with Assiniboine Community College for the licensed LPN program, licensed practical nursing, I believe is what it stands for there, and it's something that has been being pushed by the town of Neepawa for so long. They had a concept, they had an idea they wanted to pursue with the property, the former RCMP building. This is something that was originally very much facilitated by the town of Neepawa. I mean, when people talk about where the funding come from, who did what, let's not forget, let's not get it twisted here. It was the town of Neepawa, first and foremost, that jumped into action on this. And the reason we now have this facility is because of that. And the reason we were able to sort of get out and about the other day, Ken, go down there and watch a bunch of people with important titles and wearing suits cut a ribbon. Yeah. That's the most important thing, isn't it?
Yeah, well, they sure did. They cut the ribbon. I don't know why. It looks like there's quite a few scissors out there, so I think that everybody had a piece of the ribbon to take home for a souvenir. It was good to see.
There were so many, actually. I didn't get all of the people that were holding the ribbon into this picture.
We missed a couple, one on each end there, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
But still, got most of them in there.
Well, they got the important ones. I mean, well, they're all important, but I mean, obviously it was good to have the mayor out there and Colleen from the town, CEO, but the premier, Minister of Health, and of course Mark Friesen from ACC. But you know, there's a history behind this. That building was built as for the RCMP back in the day in the 80s, and served well for many years. But then it became, for quite a few years, there was a lot of discussion about, well, you got to change it, got to change it, got to change it. And it was obsolete, and I, as mayor, was in meetings with the RCMP. Well, we don't want to pay any more money, but we want a bigger place. So eventually some money came from somewhere. I'm not exactly sure because I wasn't sitting in the big chair at the time. And so the new place was built, and this one became surplus, and so the town and the planning district, Jeff Braun and his partner in crime there at the planning district, they went to work and helped design it. Pam Sumner, a local engineer, did a design on it, and they did a great job. I mean, it looks good. It's a great repurposing of a pretty solid building. I mean, the bones are very solid on that building, and because it wasn't that old a building. Mm-hmm. And but it even goes further back than that. ACC used to run a nursing program here out of the old resource center. You remember that building, Owen?
Oh yeah.
And over beside Yellowhead Manor, and that building, oh God, I don't know how many businesses were run through that building over the years before the town took it over and made it into the resource center, which served a lot of purposes for quite a while. In fact, NAC's TV studio, which is here now, and the Banner Press building used to be in there, in that building. So ACC and town and buildings and repurposing and stuff, it's got it down to a fine art now.
Yeah. Most definitely. And again, with this program, as Ken talked about, this is something that began in earnest back in December 2021. It was inspired by the announcement for the new regional hospital for the town of Neepawa. Administration council with the town of Neepawa saw that there was opportunity, ample opportunity, to get new healthcare professionals into our community and create some new healthcare professionals. And that's what the story written this week by Casper Werhan was able to focus on. We could go into the numbers, we could go into the budgeting, but we've done that already in previous stories, in previous editions of the Neepawa Banner Press. This one talks about what I think is most important on this. We can all acknowledge that there is, for the most part, a problem with the healthcare system in Manitoba. That's not an NDP issue. That's not a PC issue. That's a Manitoba issue, no matter who's in power, it seems. And there needs to be solutions. Now, there's too many people that look at the big picture of it. And when you're looking at the big picture, you can't see the little details, the little idiosyncrasies that can help solve the problem. Every journey is one step at a time. And with this training center, it's not only one step forward, it's 20 step forwards, because when it's all said and done in 2 years, we are going to have 20 licensed practical nurses that we don't have right now, but we'll have them later. And then they're going to facilitate and get out into the community. It's these types of little things that people, I think, they get too stressed on the big picture, and the little steps at a time can really sort of help turn that big picture into something smaller.
Yeah, and the only way you get the big steps is by learning how to take the little steps.
Yeah.
It's impossible to take big steps. You have to take small steps and build on the previous experience and the needs and everything. In fact, there's enough to run 3 courses theoretically, because they had 60, they've taken 20. There were 60 people applied. And so I'm sure probably 15 or 20 at least out of that remaining 40 would qualify to train. So hopefully some of those people will be around a year from now to take up a second course if they do have one.
Most definitely. Now, if you want to find out the details on that, you can find it on page 1. And of course, it does carry over to page 8 of this week's edition of the Neepawa Banner Press. The announcement, the unveiling, as it were, of Neepawa's new training center in partnership with ACC. And we have some other little extras that were submitted to us as well. I want to spotlight those. Jody Byram, the MLA for Agassiz, sent us her perspective, her thoughts on this, about what it means for our community and what it means regionally. So I hope you'll take an opportunity to read through that. And the town of Neepawa itself sent something to us as well, just talking about commemoration of this, what it means for us, the time and effort that had to go through for this. It really does give a good perspective on what the town did and the vision they saw for the future of Neepawa. So I think it's a very good read. It's only a couple paragraphs, but you can find that on page 15 of this week's edition of the paper. We're talking so much about health. We're talking so much about the healthcare programs. I wanted to take a few minutes, Ken, here on a personal level, just a couple things that we have submitted in this week's. One, of course, and let's start with this one, is your weekly column. And this week it focuses on the concept and the current state of healthcare.
Well, as I say in the column there, unfortunately, fortunately good results, but unfortunately my wife and I have been involved with, over the past 5 years, 7 different hospitals in 2 different countries in several cities. And there's a lot of similarities, but there's a lot of contrasts as well. And my experience with the 3 hospitals in the U.S., and one I was there for a week, much faster treatment, very good care, but I would say certainly the care in my experience and my wife's experience in Manitoba hospitals has been very good as well. But I pointed out some things that I think could be done differently. And strangely enough, one of the biggest changes I think they should make is how they treat people who are recovering from an illness or from surgery with the food. Like, we always hear about, well, Grandma made me chicken noodle soup,
Yep.
And yeah, they know how to do that. They do the juice and the tea and the coffee and the jello and a little bit of chicken broth and whatever. But quite quickly, like after a couple of days of so-called clear fluids, they bring in the main menu. Well, in my case in St. Boniface Hospital a few years ago, it was a honkin' big hamburger and French fries. Mm-hmm. I'd had gut surgery, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
Christine had surgery on her stomach, gallbladder, etc., and they brought her in not very good French fries and a grilled chicken breast was the first solid meal she had.
Not exactly that quickly after surgery. You'd think that's the appropriate meal.
Well, not exactly pureed pudding or something, or pureed carrots or whatever. Actually, the best pureed food I ever had was pureed macaroni and cheese one time. It was good. But there's a big gap there between the food that's served and the food that should be served. And one more thing about the hospital in the U.S., you had a little dial pad beside your beside your bed, and it was a menu, and you ordered what you wanted. If you weren't on a restricted diet, you ordered what you wanted. If you wanted applesauce, you got applesauce. If you wanted, meat pie, shepherd's pie, you got shepherd's pie.
Right.
And it's a big part of convalescing is to get to eat what you want to eat, because really, I don't think I'll eat. Well, that doesn't work either, because you don't get well if you don't get nourishment.
Right. Yeah.
I harp away at that quite a bit. I don't know if anybody will listen or not. There's tons of food thrown out in the hospitals, like tons. Tray after tray after tray comes in. The people look at it, yeah, maybe. No, it goes back. And it isn't even used.
Yeah.
A lot of food
Well,
thrown
again,
out.
that's part of the learning process there. They need to be learning about these types of things. It's a little surprising that they haven't learned it already. Yeah.
Well, part of it, I know that the people in the union will be mad at me, but a lot of the things that happen in the hospitals, or that don't happen in the hospitals, because not my job, not my job description. To the point, I know of one lady who was snapped at by somebody say, "Where are you going with those coffee cups?" "Well, I'm going to take them back to the kitchen and empty them." "Well, that's not your job." Well, who are we going to wait for to come and pick up the coffee cups? You're going to wait and spill the half-empty coffee cup on your papers while we're doing this, or are you going to do something about it,
Yeah.
And we saw lots of that in every hospital we're in.
I think part of the problem with it as well is that this is not just an issue for Manitoba, although it's something that's talked about many a time here in Manitoba, is every manager seems to have their own manager, and then their manager has a manager who has a supervisor who has a manager. And the pure administrative clutter makes sure that things like, most simply, it's like maybe we need to do more different things with the diet for certain patients after certain surgeries. The messaging never gets through to the people that need it.
I know the time when my wife was in hospital here in Neepawa, she had to have a transfer to Winnipeg for a procedure. It wasn't an emergency, but it had to be an ambulance. And it took 2.5 days.
Yep.
She lay in the hospital there. She wasn't suffering, but 2.5 days delay on her treatment because they couldn't get an ambulance. And plus, the staff at the hospital were spending hours every day trying to arrange transportation for her and other people.
Yep.
On the phone. No, not now. Maybe tomorrow. This kind of thing. I mean, it's a waste of time. Waste of time.
And those are the things that are happening in a community such as Neepawa. Sometimes we get a little isolated in terms of the problems. Sometimes we only think about what we see within ourselves. Let's remember, these are the same problems that are happening in Portage La Prairie, and in Selkirk, and in Winkler, and in Brandon, and in Thompson, so on, and so on, and so forth. So we're harping a little bit on the system, and very specifically harping on the Canadian system. But let's not forget, no system is perfect as well. The American system has its own flaws in a different way, most definitely.
Well, the one thing is that I had 5 days in the hospital in North Kansas City a couple of years ago, and I think, I'm sure that the cost was $11,000 a day to be there. Fortunately, I had full coverage from my life insurance.
Yeah.
Should we talk about a little bit brighter about how Chrissy's doing?
Most definitely. Let's finish this topic off with a little more of a positive note. This isn't my story to tell, but I'll just do a little quick preamble. For those of you that may not know, outside of Neepawa, Christine Waddell, the co-owner of the Neepawa Banner Press, fell ill. It's not my story to tell. I'll let Ken do it here, but she's on the road to recovery, and she wanted to share some of her thoughts and some of the thanks and appreciation for those that supported her through this as she's getting through the tunnel and coming out the other side, Ken.
Well, as she said thank you first to God, and then to all the people that have been put in our life, and you're one of them, Owen. Staff has stood behind us tremendously well on this, and Chris is better. She had to have, if you want to look it up, you can. It's called a Whipple procedure, W-H-I-P-P-L-E. It's a very severe surgery, very serious surgery. She was 14 days in the hospital recovering, which is probably double what lots of surgeries would be. Certainly way more than a normal gallbladder surgery, which is only a day or so nowadays. This certainly wasn't laparoscopic. She's opened up from here to here. Actually got half the stitches out this morning, so that's good. Other half tomorrow. She got home. is now doing stairs, getting upstairs so she can sleep in her own bed, and starting to boss me around again. So that's a good thing, I guess. And you can always tell when Chrissy's feeling better because she's bossing Ken around. She is very grateful for the care, wonderful care that she got, and for all the people that have stood behind us and been praying for us and wishing us well. But as I say, it's very serious surgery, and we're not out of the woods yet on this. We'll see how it goes. We're optimistic because the signs so far are very good. Very good prognosis. In fact, just when I went for a nap this afternoon at noon, and she says, I went outside, went out to the garden shed to get some stuff we need for the house. She's not supposed to do that, but she's determined. She's certainly walking well, not using a walker very much anymore. And
right.
Yeah, so it's great. And thank everybody for all their support.
If you want to find that message, of course, you can find that on page 15 of this week's edition of the Neepawa Banner Press. If you're not able to pick up a physical copy in Neepawa or surrounding community, always remember you can find it online at mywestman.ca. It goes live on the website every Friday morning at 9 a.m. Central Time. So if you're not able to get a physical version of it, you can definitely find it online. So let's shift gears. We've talked a little bit about health. Let's talk a little bit about politics, and most specifically, the politics that impacts you most directly each and every day, municipal politics. Town Council recently had their meeting. It was one of the big ones of the year. You slowly, like everybody else, you slowly gear up at the start of January. You catch that momentum, and then you're about halfway through January, you're full speed ahead. And this was one of those meetings on January 16th. If you didn't see it right here on NAC TV, the broadcast of it, I'll go through some of the bullet points, some of the most notable bullet points that are going on. One of the most interesting things, Ken, is the potential sale. There's still one or two I's to dot, one or two, T's to sort of cross in regards to the commercial lot, which for many of us is known as the former Neepawa Fire Hall location, just right across from the Neepawa laundromat. And in fact, the Neepawa laundromat has shown its interest in purchasing it. Town Council has approved that. There's still a few things that need to be worked out on that deal, but it looks as though most definitely it's going to be sold in the very near future, if not already.
Yeah, well, that's a good deal because I don't know whether the price is a good deal or not for the town or for the buyer, but it's $100,000 is still a lot of money in my view. But anyway, that piece of property was fire hall for years. The land that the town owned went right up to cheek by jowl with the laundromat. They really didn't have much parking beside their building. Now that allows them to have a lot more parking. I understand they're going to put another business into the west end of the building too. And
that's the thing as well. You might be curious because there's a lot of rumors going around town that a portion of the dry cleaner and laundromat is going to be retrofitted into the pet store.
Yeah.
And again, we've heard all those things as well. This is actually something slightly separate from it, but it's very interesting to see all the action that's happening in terms of the laundromat.
Well, and kudos to the owners of the laundromat because we need the parking. I mean, the downtown area certainly needs the parking, and they could probably put a fence around it and charge parking in there, even because there's such a shortage of parking down here in the downtown area of Neepawa. So it's good to see.
Most definitely. You talk about parking, you talk about vehicles, and we're going to talk about vehicle-related thing that the town of Neepawa received from Manitoba Infrastructure and Transportation over the last few years, nearly 13 or 14 years, I think. Let's see here. Let me check my notes here. Yeah, since 2014, so a decade. They have been requesting a change in the speed limit out by High Life. They'd like it brought down from about 100 kilometers an hour down to about 80. Reason is during shift changes, that place gets pretty darn hectic, so it can turn into a little bit of a traffic situation. It's a little surprising more accidents haven't occurred there. Unfortunately, the request for a second time in the last 10 years has been denied by MIT. Neepawa would like it to see it happen, but it's a no-go for now.
Well, that really infuriates me because I was part of that whole discussion back in the day 10 years ago when I was mayor. And it seemed to be, sound like a broken record, but MIT will tell you the town of Neepawa is the traffic authority within the town of Neepawa.
Yeah.
Well, if that were the case, then they should be able to put up stop signs where they want and speed zones where they want. Oh, no, no. Because the highway that goes through Main Street is Highway 16. It has to all go through Highways Department. And I say this right now. I don't know if anybody from Highways Department is listening, but if you want to get a message to them, are you going to be the one that pays for the cleanup of the major accident that happens there? Because it's common. It's common. And it makes no sense at all to be 100 miles an hour or 100 kilometers an hour through there. They say they will consider it once the new school is open or once the new hospital is open and then a new school. So they're going to add another 50% more traffic to that corridor at certain times. You imagine shift change and the end of school day and shift change at the hospital all at the same time?
Yeah.
My
and
God.
I tell you, better hope it's not too late when it happens.
Exactly. They're out of their freaking minds. And I've told them that before, and they don't listen all that much. But I have literally told Highways Department people in meetings when I was mayor that they're out of their bloody minds when they don't do these things in a timely fashion.
You can find that, of course, on page 2 of this week's edition. Several other items of note from Town Council, and this one included as well. It's a separate story. I felt it was important enough to write as a separate entity unto itself. And this is something I've written about a couple times over the last 2 years. But I hate to say it, and I'm not singling any individuals out, but you know who you are if you're out there. Pouring grease down the water and sewer lines and causing damage to the sewer systems. It's still happening. It's still prevalent throughout the town of Neepawa, and it's come to the point where the town was asking nicely. They were asking very nicely, stop doing it, please. Stop doing it. Please stop doing it. Why are you still doing it? And now it's come down to, all right, now we got to get a little more harsh. Now we got to get a little more serious.
Yeah.
And that preamble comes up to the suggestion to council has been made to put fines in place of $500 or $1,000 for anything that happens when there's grease, waste, fats, oils that are poured down the sink, poured down the toilets, whatever, and end up causing that sludge and all that issue. Because it's happening, Ken, not just in our old systems, but they cited an example in the story where on the CN property, for example, less than 2 years, just 2 years old, these entire systems, they've had to go in and they've had to scope them out and they've had to replace them because of damage from disposal, careless disposal. It's unbelievable.
Well, people don't understand. You put about enough fat and grease down there and it's cold down there. Like it's quite cold down 8 feet.
Yep.
And it just congeals and builds up and builds up. And as you say, some of those pipes are clogged after 2 years.
Yep, it's something, it hasn't been passed yet. I forget off the top of my head, Denis, manager of operations, has made the suggestion to town council to take under advisement. This hasn't been passed yet, but again, in my opinion, and it might not be your opinion, it might not be the opinion of the Banner Press, but in my opinion, it's long overdue. Let's face facts. This is a lot of money to try and fix a system like this. So if they have to do it, they have to do it. And it's just unfortunate that the message has not gone through.
Well, maybe we start hitting pocketbooks that will go through, and I do agree with the decision the town has made on this. It's ridiculous.
Well, again, there's no decision yet. This is not in place yet. It's been suggested, and it is being taken under advisement by the town. But, just between you and me and whomever might be listening from the town, do it. Do it. Yeah. Having said that, my place will be the first one that's tagged. I didn't mean to, I swear. My bad.
Don't empty the fry pan or the deep fryer down the toilet.
Yeah. So if you want to find that story and learn a little bit more about what's going on with that, you can find it on page 6. We only got a few minutes left. There's so much more we could talk about, though. So a lot of sports stuff that went on. The Tigers hockey team having a great start to January. Tiger Hills Hockey League, some wonderful things going on for the Neepawa Farmers and the Minnedosa Bombers. Both those teams on a hot streak. We got an update from the Gladstone Lakers. It's been a rough start for 2024 for the Lakers. But if you're interested in any of those teams, check out the sports pages. We've also got pictures from the Arden Men's Bonspiel that recently took place. We've got pictures from NACI, the mixed doubles curling. Congratulations to those youngsters who won the zones. And it's wonderful. And the Titans as well. They had one game out in Steinbach. So a lot of sportsing going on in and around Neepawa right now.
Yeah, there's people that say there's nothing to do or nothing to see or to go to in this area. Obviously haven't been at the arena or the high school lately.
Yep.
But it's or watching things that are happening on the street, different businesses moving around.
Yep.
It's good.
And that's it. I sped through the sports stuff to get to this last story we're talking about. One of our local businesses is shutting down, but a new business is going to be blossoming in its as a replacement in terms of its time. It's something we're all familiar with. Downtown, it's on that one corner. It's impossible to miss. They're going to be shutting it down. They have shut it down now. Casper Werhan has that story in there talking about the history, the memories behind it, what it has meant, and the new business as well. The Mill Lifestyle is going to be the name of the new business that pops up there. So,
well, I'm showing my age because when I came to Neepawa in 1971, that building was Strock's Hardware.
Strock's Hardware. You know what? That sounds like a good place to get your hardware. You know,
Yeah.
Strock is a good solid
Yeah,
word.
yeah.
You know,
It's been used by a lot of different businesses over the years, a lot.
Yeah.
And Strock certainly wasn't the first one. That's one of the old original buildings in Neepawa.
oh well.
It's a cornerstone, that one.
Yeah. So page 7 of this week's edition of the Banner Press is where you can find that article. We've got so many other things. We've got a bunch of pictures from Manitoba Ag Days, and we've got a few other things. We've got that auto accident that everybody was talking about there, a vehicle that crashed into a giant tiger. We got some pictures of what happened there, and so that's why you always need to pick up a copy of the Banner Press to find out these types of things. We appreciate, of course, as well, any story suggestions you have. 50% of our job as a reporter is going out there and chasing these leads, but the other 50% is you coming in and letting us know about it, because there's only so many hours in the week and there's only so many places we can be. So that's why we need your help. Always remember, give us a call, 476-3401, the number we can be reached at. In fact, I'm working on a couple stories right now. They called us up, they sent us emails, and they gave us these tips, so we're chasing them down. Or news at neepawabanner.com. So it's always appreciated. Don't assume anyone who knows me knows, I ain't the sharpest spoon in the cupboard. So if you're in the know, let us in the know. We'd much prefer to be told the same thing 5, 6, 7 times than not be told at all.
You might not be the deepest spoon, but you might, or the sharpest spoon, but you might be the deepest pot. Not Owen, he works out. He's a tough guy.
But again, we appreciate you. We're here because of you. So thank you very much. And again, Ken, thank you very much for taking the time, sitting in for us this week. Always appreciate your input on this.
You're welcome. Good to be here.
And again, as always, to you as well, thank you for taking the time and watching us right here on NAC TV and the story behind the stories. Hope you have another fantastic week.